Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me today. I'm really excited to share a little bit of my insight as I have been personally had the privilege to kind of navigate through all of these changes that are occurring. I think we've done a really good job of doing that, but have taken a lot of lessons from the past few months. And now we're looking forward to the next few months into the fall and spring recruiting season. And then right now, currently, we're in our internship program. So let me share my screen now. So just a brief intro on myself. I think Tasha did a really good job, but my education background comes from, I started out in psychology, took some time to really understand what my passion was in life, what my purpose was. So I took 3 years after undergraduate school to, I started a production company doing some film and photography, did a few other creative things, some sales, some construction operations, and then went back to school for human resource and industrial relations, which that was where I kind of found my passion for campus career advising and campus recruiting. So I started my career off in San Jose, working for a tech company, as you said. And during my time at the University of Illinois in grad school, I got to work at the Career Center, which was really what sparked my interest and my passion for working with students. So I would say kind of my number one kind of why is helping students and early career individuals find fulfilling work, kind of understand what fulfillment means, and not just think about things like the paycheck and the brand name of the company, but think about really what happiness is going to look like for them. So I'm also very passionate about storytelling, and like Tasha said, I've had a very non-linear career path, but now I found myself in a place where I'm truly happy with the work that I get to do each and every day. So I wanted to briefly go over kind of the landscape for industries in general, but you know, definitely professional services industries. You know, one of the first things that has changed, like since, you know, February, March, is a lot of programs have gone remote. Most programs have gone remote due to safety concerns and logistical concerns. Some of the big four firms have done 2-week training programs and guaranteed offers, which is very interesting. And I think that's something that's never happened before. So it's kind of just adjusting with the times. And, you know, some firms are able to do things like that. Others are not. Delayed start dates are a big thing that are happening for all firms, just to be able to have a little bit more time to plan out if people are going to be able to come and start their onboarding in the office or not. You know, for some smaller firms or firms that have been affected very greatly, they've had to cancel their internship entirely and rescind offers, which, you know, can lead to hurting their brand. And then, of course, for fall and spring recruiting, a lot of virtual. So I'll show kind of statistic that I got from Handshake, and basically, you know, a good percentage of schools are going either partially or fully virtual, and a lot still waiting to see. And I do believe that number is going to end up being closer to 2 and 3. And then also, employers are not visiting campuses as much. So for us at Baker Tilly, we've already made the decision that in the fall we will not be visiting any campuses, and we've had to start communicating that to all of our universities so that they are aware of that, and we can kind of plan around that, and also communicating to all the stakeholders, so the administration, student organizations, that way we can plan to kind of work effectively through that. So some of the challenges, of course, it's very clear that staying competitive in a virtual environment can be very tricky. So you really have to host very highly engaging events in order to be successful with this. And that takes a lot of kind of innovation and really thinking of how you want to present your firm to your candidates. And then, of course, a challenge converting interns, having the headcount to convert interns and convert people within your pipeline into the internship program and on with, restricted headcount. I think that'll be challenging. And it's challenging for students as well because they're having to make choices after their remote internships. Okay, do I take an offer with a company that I might not fully feel connected to just because I don't want to risk not finding another opportunity? Or do I go and take the risk on campus and in this virtual environment and try to find a full-time job there? So that's a little tricky, but with that comes a lot of opportunity areas. I think the biggest one being that, like I mentioned, the opportunity to be innovative and creative, building better communities, I think, within your organization, but also outside. Like, I've never been so connected to a class of interns or, a class of all of my student leadership events that we have as I am now. And I think that's partially because of all the communication we've had to do because of COVID-19, but also in generally speaking, it just in this virtual environment, it's a lot easier to reach out to people more consistently now that we can't have them come to the office, So that's a little bit on that. Here's another statistic that I pulled from a report. So just kind of showing you how important it is to kind of be prepared for virtual events. And I wanted to really mention that I think one of the biggest things that recruiters are turning to are virtual recruiting tools like Highre. And I think it's so important to think about the tools that you're using as a recruiter, but also as a university, because you really have to think, what is going to be the most engaging for the students? So I can think of a few examples, and I've been a part of a few virtual career fairs where it's just like a chat box. So you're really not getting a lot of engagement. You're sitting there and you're just, IMing with a company, not getting to see them face to face. But then you have great platforms like Highre that offer, that face to face and, very efficient, cost-effective options to kind of continue that brand on campus, hosting webinars, different things like that. So I see a big shift for universities and employers to start using these platforms that have been very, kind of meticulously designed to be engaging to the students and the employers. So, and some of the other benefits of that is, kind of simplify the way that you can view resumes, share profiles, do like diversity recruiting, analytics, branding, things like that. So I think that's just a big mention of where things are going. So I just wanted to briefly go over something, I thought would be important to mention is my personal experience with, since I am the manager of the internship program for our consulting group, I have had to oversee kind of each step of the process for this summer. So the decision-making process was very tricky. So it had to come from firm leadership, obviously, but it had a lot to do with having a lot of different contingency plans put in place with everyone's safety in mind, of course, but also being highly transparent with our interns and letting them know as we found out about decisions we were making, letting them know that same day or that next day so that they could, stay in the loop, and letting them all know at once so they're not hearing from their friends and things like that. So the decision-making process was very tricky, but we had a task force put together that was really great at keeping us posted, and then we were able to keep everyone else posted, and that goes for all of our student leadership events as well. The design, of course, very tricky. We had to really consider how do we adjust every aspect of the internship program to fit this virtual landscape. So we did decide to go fully remote and shorten our internship a little bit. So how do we make it kind of as close to as possible as it would have been? And a lot of that came down to like having very engaging virtual social events, making sure to still have an engaging onboarding/training program, and just really, just being mindful of the students and their feedback. So we collected feedback after day 1 and 2. Actually, this week has been the onboarding program, the start of the onboarding program. And we actually took that feedback from day 1 and day 2 from a survey we sent out. And then we made adjustments to day 3, gave them a few more breaks, took a little bit more feedback and put it into action. I know that they really appreciated that. So that's been a great part of it. And then the management, that's kind of to be determined. But one thing that we really have helping us this summer is that we have a new talent management platform that's going to make it very streamlined how the interns request and receive feedback, kind of their whole performance evaluation process a lot easier, and just holding everyone accountable for their own development, whether it's the interns or the internal teams. And this allows us, to really build stronger relationships. Like I was saying before, even them coming in, I felt very connected to them. And this week, they're so comfortable with me that, as they have troubleshooting issues or anything like that, they're able to reach out to me, text me, IM me, and let me know so I can help them. So that's been a really great experience so far with that. So let me, I wanted to talk very briefly on this, and this is something we can talk about during the Q&A portion as well. So what can universities do to work better with us, work more successfully with employers? And I think one of the biggest things is just being transparent. It's the same thing that we're doing with our stakeholders, with our students and our candidates. But, as you find out decisions that are made, let us know, and then we can kind of adjust accordingly. So I think that's number one, is really being transparent. And that goes along with like communicating frequently as you have an update, or just reaching out. I mean, so many universities have done a great job of reaching out, seeing how we're doing, seeing how things are going. And I think that's just like very, very important. And then, like I mentioned before, choose the right platforms, because I think a lot of universities, since this is the first year, they're going with this chat box feature platform. And it's not engaging for us. It's not engaging for the students. And in the end, we might end up just not doing virtual career fairs through the universities and hosting our own events if we can't use a platform that we see is going to be highly beneficial and give us and the students a very similar experience, and it has to be face-to-face. So like I mentioned before, platforms like Highre, different platforms that have that face-to-face interaction, really, really make a difference. So I think that's just some of the tips. There's a lot of other ones that we can work with. And then kind of before I end and go to a little bit of a Q&A, two additional points I wanted to make. In this new world of like remote work, virtual office settings, what are companies looking for in new grads, new talent? I don't think this has really changed much. We're still looking for very similar, if not the same, characteristics and behaviors as we did before. However, I think we have to be mindful of asking questions during the interview process regarding what did you do during, your quarantine, during the lockdown, during different things like that. And that's going to be such a big interview question, I think, in the fall, that's going to keep coming up. And the students that are able to display that they were very highly proactive and actually gained a new skill, kind of went out of their way to do more during this time and use this time wisely, are the students that are going to really excel in the interview process in the fall. And even if you were, even if it was an intern that lost their internship, but still found something that they could do over the summer to gain a new skill. That's going to be really big. So I know there's a lot of students that are worried that they lost their internship. Now they have this gap in their resume. My recommendation is still put that on your resume, that you at least got that opportunity, and, you can explain that you weren't able to complete that internship. But I think that's just going to be a really big part. So that would be advice that I would give, the universities tell their students, is kind of right now be preparing over the summer. What are the things that you're doing now to go above and beyond? And then I'll also end with, I don't want to just talk about how COVID has changed this landscape. I think right now the current events that are going on in the United States need to be addressed. And I think we really need to do our part as employers, as universities, to at least start working towards a higher level of understanding. So, for example, in all of our student leadership events, we try to put in diversity inclusion type of events, and kind of worked into the schedule. We just hosted our annual diversity inclusion event about 3 weeks ago, and we had to do it virtually, and we had an unconscious bias training that was part of that. So I think that's, unconscious bias trainings aren't going to fix everything. I don't think that's going to change unconscious bias, but it's going to at least make people aware. And I think employers are already doing a really great job of making that a very kind of required training that they have to do. But now as a firm, we're making sure that our students are more or less required to be a part of a unconscious bias training or presentation. So they're able to kind of understand this as they're still candidates before they even join the workforce. And I think as more people become aware, we can start to work towards eliminating some of that bias that has been very present in the recruiting process for forever. So I think that's just one piece. There's so much more that can be done, but I think as universities, it's also very important for you all to do your piece, and I've seen a lot of that as well. So that's all I have. So, if you have any questions for me, please feel free to ask anything regarding pretty much anything: campus recruiting, virtual recruiting, and anything else, kind of present, future, past. I think you need to really ask yourself, what are you trying to achieve? Like, obviously, before COVID, you're trying to help your students get jobs, but we've had this like old school way of doing things for as long as I can remember. I mean, forever. Even when I was a student, I remember thinking career fairs were the most outdated activity that we did on campus, and so inefficient. So you have to really think about what the programs offer, or what you're looking for and what the programs offer. So if you're trying to do kind of more diversity recruiting, there's a lot of different programs that offer really specialized features that give you that. If you're trying to be highly engaging, obviously look for ones that offer that video conferencing aspect. I had always thought, it'd be a great idea to have kind of like each company kind of present on like the site or the platform, and then students could like jump into a queue for each company and then be able to be speaking to other companies while they're waiting for their turn. So, Highre is an amazing platform. I think Tasha is going to cover that a little bit later on, but I've seen that that's one that's highly engaging. Handshake and HireView are kind of teaming up to have a separate platform, and I know a lot of universities use Handshake as well, so I think that's another great one. I can't remember the name of the platform that is the chat box one, but I've already had like 2 or 3 of my universities say that they're using that one. I want to say it's like, I don't want to talk bad on any platforms, but it's like Career Echo or something like that, and it's just a chat box feature. Yeah, Career Echo. I mean, that could work for some people if that's what you're looking for. But I know for me, I'm not looking forward to that. And I probably will not be joining those career fairs, and we'll just be targeting students and hosting our own kind of like career fair event. So, to summarize, do your research internally, see what you're looking for, and do your research externally, see what the options are, how they match what you're looking for, and then make a decision based on that. And of course, like pricing and other things have to come into play, but hopefully that answers your question. So since I've gotten the unique opportunity to work on kind of both sides, I think what I value the most is the relationship. So for me, relationships are very, very big in every aspect. And I can say I've built very strong relationships to the point where I can like actually call some of these university career center or university administration or faculty friends. Like it's to that point. And it's just really taken, obviously making that first initial introduction, but kind of following up and, being very responsive and trying to help in any way you can, offering, like for me, I offer my services as a mock interviewer, a resume reviewer, to host webinars, different things like that. And then I kind of get it reciprocated by by the University Career Center, by them helping me, post jobs, advertise jobs, really target people specifically. So I think to answer that question, it's just the relationship. It's just very mutual relationship, and it feels really great to do that. And I would recommend the same for like student organizations, for kind of every stakeholder, building that really strong relationship. That is a very great question. I've seen some pretty up there numbers. I mean, I think typically, let's say last year, the average price of a career fair was about $1,000. But obviously that took a lot of setup. I don't know. I think for us, I think if we saw a career fair that was like $200, I think that would be reasonable amount to pay. Obviously the university has to pay for the services for the platform, so they need to be able to recoup that money. But I mean, if it was anything over, maybe 200, 300, anything over that, I would just target specific students that fit what we're looking for and that are interested in us. And then I would just hold my own career fair and save that money and have a more engaging, more personal event. So then you kind of have to balance that. So I would recommend, between $200 and $300, I would say would be like the cap for an event. But it also depends on what you're offering too. I mean, if you got Career Echo, maybe a little lower. If you're using Highre or one of these that are very engaging, then you can kind of go up in price a little bit. And I think we're at time. So I want to thank everyone for the opportunity to share a little bit more about my story and my personal experience with kind of everything that's going on right now and how we're adjusting to what's to come. And there are a lot of uncertainties, but one piece of advice I'll leave everyone with is just communicate with your teams, with everyone, and be very, very transparent. And that will lead to better results and a high level of trust.